welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message at the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi-Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
It's episode 471 of the Trinity Force Podcast, and the crew that likes to talk about League because they're best friends in real life and on the internet are back together again this week. Dom, Cheer, Punch, and Mitch are all here.
Woo. I'm kind of sad that my video's not going now because my like shifty eyes would have just come out there pretty hard.
What? We're all the best friend crew. What was the strong bad? The girl, I can't remember what the fuck it's called now. Like the girl power crew or whatever he did. Do you remember that? The
Team Girl Squad.
Thank you, Team Girl Squad. Yes. We could be Team Superboy Squad.
I'm
sure. This sounds like
this.
It sounds like a Star Guardian thing that we're coming up with here.
It does. Yeah, that was where my head first went.
What a great day to have the Star Guardian thing with it being released and the comic and all that out there. But
is it released finally?
The comic is.
Oh, that's what everyone was waiting for, right?
I don't have anything to do with that.
Thank goodness.
I don't know what's happening with the skins. So, guys, thank you for supporting us. As I always say, every single week, you guys hear all of the stuff that hits before the podcast. I know you heard the long intro here. Just a quick ad about those chairs. If you go and type in Skylab Performance Seating into Amazon, you'll find them as well. Just use code 15TForce. I want to throw that out there because the intro says like it's 30% off, but the chairs are 30% off total if you use the code 15TForce. It's a little confusing, but you get 30% off as long as you're using that code. So even if it says 15, the chairs are already discounted by 15% being out there. So it's a really, really good deal. So that's yes. That. Just wanted to clarify that for anybody out there. And if you purchase one, let us know because we'd like to know how you are liking those chairs. But I want to talk about some League of Legends this week because we have quite a bit to talk about in the document. And Dom, are you mad at me if I skip over the first one and come back to it as the second one?
No.
Because you get mad at me for listener questions.
What? Really?
I get mad at you for the listener questions, but that's because I try to put them in order of timeliness. And the other stuff in the document tends to be things that we can touch base on them in the next episode or something. Whereas we've gone through stretches where we never got to listener questions, and so something that was really relevant when I put it up at the top might not be relevant by the time we actually get to it.
Now, when you say mad, does Dom take private time after or before the show to scold you? Because if that's the case, I would like to publicly see this.
He has.
No, I scold him on the show, or we bitch about it when he's not on an episode, like we had for a while back there. But
excuse me. Excuse me for not doing it correctly.
I do like that we're going to have a bit of extra patience. Oh, jeez, I am lagging a good bit. I hate this.
No.
I'm never going to say something to you that I wouldn't also say in front of the listeners.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to skip the patience one because I want to warm up a little bit before we get into the patience discussion. I do want to talk about Fight Me, a discussion on team fighting. That was a piece I believe I put in the document a week ago, and it was just kind of like a random thought about how to team fight properly, but I know a lot of people have questions about positioning and what they should be doing in team fights, and we kind of covered assassins a little bit about a week ago or so. But I kind of wanted to hit on marksman or AD carries because right now we're in a meta where it's protect the AD carry meta more than less, thanks to Ardent Sensor and Tristana being so powerful. And
just tanks.
Yeah. And tanks as well.
The resurgence of the tank.
So, when you're playing a marksman, it can be hard to decide who you're hitting. And a lot of times in lower elos, people scream, hit the marksman, kill the marksman, right? And that's counter to what we would tell you to do, and that's hit whatever is in front of you. And I think that's where we start, is when you are playing a marksman or playing anybody, you're really trying to hit the person that's close to you. But then it comes down, when should I be blowing my cooldowns to start with that. So I don't know if anyone wants to jump into that, or if you want me to just keep talking.
Yeah, or for this meta specifically, whenever you've got a tank whenever you've got a tanky meta or protect the AD carry meta, the team fights generally come down to whichever front line falls first, that team loses. So whoever takes down the enemy team's tanks first means that team can then snowball right through to the back line and kill them. So whenever you hear, whenever you get scolded on a low elo for, OMG, I can't believe you focused the tank, especially in a meta like this, where you can't really get through the tanks until they're dead, those people are wrong. You should be killing the tank. Or at least you should be killing, like you were saying, whoever's closest to you. I know we used the term target of opportunity in the past. Like whoever you can focus without putting yourself in, I don't want to say danger, without suiciding. How about that? Without being stupid. Because you're always going to be within danger if you're within attack range of somebody, right? But you don't want, obviously, you don't want to walk into the enemy team to get to that back line. So it's, your target is, if you can only reach the tanks, then it's the tanks because you want to take out the front line. If the enemy carry oversteps, then hey, that's always that should always be a green light to go kill the AD carry, because that's when you want to kill, majority of the time first. But that's not really going to happen. The majority of team fights, most of the time, you're going to be focusing that front line.
There's some abilities that are actually useful for dealing with tanks. Like Tahm Kench's Devour, for example. Like if you take a tank out of a fight for, what is it, 2 seconds, 3 seconds? It's not super long, but it's long enough to make a really, really big difference on that type of thing. In addition to Tahm Kench doing, percent of health damage to a tank on top of that, which is going to be pretty meaningful. So that only ever attack the AD carry, attitude just really doesn't always apply. It's so context dependent and everything, and it really depends on the type of champion that you're playing.
I think cooldowns are something that interesting to relate to AD carries, because so many of them have, if you have an Ezreal E or Vayne E, which are very used for peeling or getting out of a bad situation, when you need to save those. But something like Twitch's the ability that consumes all the poison stacks is kind of a weird thing to think about when you're in a team fight. It's like, how do I know when to use that? Should it be bursting down like a tank? The one I think about the most is Corki. You know that you can just blow a lot of spells, you'll blow a lot of rockets to get more Sheen procs off, or use your E against tanks. But your Q you might save for more bursty targets that you're looking for.
Tristana's probably.
So I think it's interesting to see those.
Tristana's probably the one that points out right now, since she is one of the more popular AD carries, and it's when to use your E to get damage down. EQ, because Q doesn't reset. It's on a fairly long cooldown, at least 10 seconds, and E is also on a fairly long cooldown in that, while W will reset. And you're when you're in the playing as a team fight as a marksman, you have to you have to figure out how the team fights are playing out. So you'll get those skirmishes where you'll drop your EQ, you'll blow up somebody, and you realize that I've got a lot of damage. I'm going to be able to moat. I'm going to be able to chew through a tank or something without blowing a huge parts of my combo. But in the opposite foot, if you guys are on even footing, where Braum and Cho'Gath are charging at you, you have to try to do as much damage as you possibly can while they're coming at you, and that's when you're dropping your EQ combo down. Essentially, you want to make them scared to attack you, scared to walk at you, make them back off, but you have to get really, really, really good at that A attack move kiting. Because if you're playing marksman, anybody out here is playing marksman at all, and you can't A attack move kite, you can't or block at all, you really haven't, I hate to say it, but you have no business playing marksman, because that is such a quintessential piece of playing marksman that you have to do.
Don't have business playing a lot of champions, not even necessarily marksman. That is a great technique to develop, regardless if you're playing top and you're learning how to trade while moving or anything else. That's something that you should add to your repertoire no matter what. Yes, it's way more important as marksman because you're moving around or whatever, but that's something you should still be striving to do all the time.
So I'm going to take a moment here just before we continue. Someone is bleeding audio super heavily, and it's not Sean because I can hear Sean talking back into it, and I don't know if it's
who would
Mitch.
dare do such a thing?
I'm hearing the bleed, so
I don't think
I
it's
hear it
me.
as well.
It's Mitch. I blame Mitch.
Well,
Mitch, it's all your fault.
that's probably me then.
Yeah, we're hearing heavy bleed back into the microphone right now.
All right, can I talk about Strana?
Bonkers.
Yeah, so work
Well,
on that
how
if
he
you can, like turn
looks at
down your
bleeding
microphone
things.
volume or something, and then Punch will talk about
Bleeding
that.
audio. Yeah, you mentioned Tristana. We were kind of talking about cooldowns. Her cooldowns are kind of odd in that, yes, against a tank, you're going to take a longer time to kill them, right? It's going to take a lot of auto attacks, and you've got time to throw down that E and then use your Q. But if she's targeting a squishier champion, like another AD carry, and we're talking about late game here, using that E is actually a DPS loss because that means you're not auto attacking, and she can kill a squishy target very quickly when she's at full build.
Without needing E whatsoever.
Right. Caitlyn's the same way. I think that's more of a well-known example where eventually Caitlyn's damage, her auto attack damage, it just outscales her abilities. Like she doesn't even use Q anymore.
Well, when
she's got
headshot
3 items.
you'd be surprised how many people try to use Q anyway.
They still do. Yep.
I mean, fucking late game Caitlyn headshot does like 3 times more damage than her Q does, regardless. Like, you're better off just getting as many of those procs as you can.
So the point of why I brought that up is because cooldowns, we're on the topic of marksmen, are very character specific about whether or not who to use them on and when to use them. So it kind of goes into our philosophy of learning specific champions as opposed to, being a jack of all trades for your role. Because you kind of by playing a champion over and over again, you'll get a better feel for when to use those abilities, especially on your targets of opportunity.
Right. Excuse me. I'm just changing a scene out here real quick. But
R.I.P. Mitch.
Yeah, rip Mitch. Good night, sweet.
He's gone forever.
It's been a long time since
He'll be
that's
back.
happened.
That's all
The
right.
last time I was on, I think this happened.
I think
He had to
Yeah,
rejoin
outright-
because he was lagging.
his laptop's taking a shit. We're gonna have to work on that. It's that or internet. It's probably internet actually.
Well, isn't his laptop like falling apart to the point where like he's basically holding it together with clamps? And,
I don't know.
I'm exaggerating.
Bubble gum.
Here. Yeah, I thought it was. I don't know.
Well, anyway, so back to that point of marksman, I like that idea of holding abilities or understanding why your champion needs to use abilities when they do. It's really hard. I'm going to keep using Tristana because she's the one I've been playing the most recently.
Well, it's because she's fucking so good right now.
Right.
Like, I was in a game the other day where a guy almost decided to AFK because somebody didn't first pick him Tristana and he wanted it.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, she's a good example.
Yeah.
So
You have to.
it's hard.
Sorry, I was just going to finish my thought, Dom, real quick.
Oh, sure.
And I forgot that pencil and paper today. God damn it. Dom would understand that. We're kind of disjointed here. This is why I didn't want to talk about the patience real quick, because I knew we kind of had to get our bearings going by talking about this. But yeah, targets of opportunity is really good. And I know that a lot of times you have to attack the support, and probably the worst feeling ever is having to smack that Alistar who's got that 60% damage reduction, and that's the time where you're not using your cooldowns on that person. You're just smacking them until you can get a better target of opportunity. So understanding that in a team fight, you're also inching forward. If you're not being chased out of the fight, right? Like if the tanks aren't just barreling down on you and the assassins aren't barreling down on you, you're also trying to inch forward or inch to the left or right as a marksman, because you're trying to walk around to be able to get to a better target than the tank that is smacking on you. So like Punch said, if I'm playing or a Punch or Dom said that you want to be able to hit that marksman, right? So if I'm walking around and I can see that marksman setting off to the left side and I can rocket jump onto them, or I can get closer to them to be able to kill them without blowing a flash, and I'm not telling you to flash in, that's what you want to be, that's what you're trying to do, because you are trying to get to that back line if possible. There's just always that brick wall in front of you, so you have to move around the map, and team fights are so hard to play out because you have to process so much information. You have to know what the enemy team is coming at you, where the enemy marksman is walking, where the enemy support is walking, what your team is doing, and how your team is going to get to those points. So there's a lot of information. That's why team fighting is probably one of the harder pieces to learn in the game. Why a lot of people will end up losing games because they don't understand how to team fight or what they should be doing in team fighting. When it comes to that point in the game.
The other thing is it's fun to use abilities.
That's
Like,
true.
that's why people are so impatient with a lot of stuff and everything. Like, I mean, Laney Phase, think about how many times people will just like use a blitzcrank hook for no reason other than it's like, I'm just like, it's fun. It's fun to throw a
I'm
hook.
going fishing. I'm actually going
Let's see what
fishing.
happens. I don't know what I'm going to do if I manage to hook somebody. I guess I'll knock them up and we'll see where it goes from there. But like, it's fun to throw the hook out.
That's
It's fun to throw Brand's pillar out. It's fun to fucking, be the Birdman.
You have described how I play Blitzcrank. Well, I'm just going fishing. And if it works, it works.
Let's see if I get someone.
Yeah, it's fun to throw Ziggs bomb.
It's the same thing with Thresh, and it's fun to press buttons and to feel like you're actively doing something rather than holding on to shit just because you don't know what to do.
Dude, if this doesn't walk into the patience discussion, I don't know what other piece is going to get us there. Because we talked about it a little bit last week with being patient in League of Legends, and I wanted to expand on that a little bit more because there's a lot of times when you're playing this game where you feel like the game is moving at a faster pace than it actually is because kills are coming across your scoreboard. Basically kills and assists are coming onto your scoreboard all the time. You're seeing them pop up as people across the map are doing things or dragons are being taken, and you feel like the game is moving at this super quick pace when in reality all that had happened within 45 seconds. And you've only ever had one other minion wave crash into your tower or into your lane since that point. So the game is actually moving really slowly. And meanwhile, you're stuck wherever you are at watching this go down, and you feel like that you are losing control. And I think that's where tilt comes from with a lot of players, is that something happens, the game is outside their control, and they lose their patience. And I wanted to talk about why we should be patient, why we should sit in lane, why we shouldn't try to force all those engages at level 3 and 4, and we should figure out power spikes.
The best example of patience, or because we've all been here, the best one I can think of is when you get everybody to hide into the river brush or jungle brush or something. It's not warded. Like everybody is there waiting, and you see somebody starting to roll that way, and like they're coming towards you, and you can get them if everybody just has patience, and then somebody jumps the gun, and then that means the person gets away because they just lack the discipline to wait until the exact opportune moment.
Hold.
Yeah. I mean, but we've all been there at one point or another. And I imagine all of us at one point or another has been the person who lacked the discipline and
Sure.
blew it for everybody else. Jumped a moment too soon. But that's sort of the quintessential experience in my mind.
Yeah. I have to tell myself a lot when we're laning to be patient. Just let the CS roll in. You've been a
lot better about this lately.
Right. Yeah. Well, I have limited playtime. I have to make it worth my while, right? But I had to have pretty much a conversation with myself and say that I need to be patient when I'm in the bottom lane. Like I don't need to force fights all the time. I don't need to be constantly pushing. This season's been a lot of readjustment and trying to get. This season for me has been a lot about how do I play in a team-oriented game rather than a solo-oriented game, and so I have to have the patience and discipline to just stand under my tower and look at my CS score. Okay, I'm only down 2. Oh, I'm even. I'm down 2. Oh, I'm down 5. It's not that big a deal. My jungler will come. So if my junglers are done grabbing each other's asses out of the top and bot lane, go Tira. They'll eventually show up in my lane and turn it into something. Right, Sean?
No response. Sure.
I mean, he's always gonna talk shit about me not showing up enough, but
I didn't say you have to show up enough. I just say you like to play grab ass in the top lane.
I like to play grab ass all over the map. Everywhere.
No, that's wrong. Because you don't show up bottom and take dragons. You like to play grab ass in the top side of the map.
Depends. If it's a fire drake coming up, that's the only thing I care about.
Horse shit. Sean, when you jungle, you don't take dragons. And you know what? A lot of people do this. They just play grab ass around mid, top, and jungle, and then they're like, "Fuck this bottom side of the map." I don't know those objectives.
I take dragons if it's a fucking if it's a stone drake, if it's
stone drake.
If it's a fucking water drake or a wind drake, I mean, I'll get the water one if I have somebody on the team that's if the laning phase is going to take a while and I know people are gonna get a major advantage out of it, but otherwise it's I'm not going to force dragons that don't need to be forced, especially if I'm picking up kills everywhere else or snowballing other places on the map, because if I can get a top laner up 2 kills, I never have to show up there again.
and yet he
Sean
continues to
almost
show up.
always shows up for Dragon when I call it, and I call
Yeah.
Dragon a lot.
I would
Always
say I'm actually
like
pretty.
the 7-minute Drake.
I'm really like. I focus on Dragon a lot, but it's always dependent on what Dragon's up and what's going to be more beneficial for the team. Because if
When you say you're patient about which dragon you,
God damn it, Punch,
you would like to take,
so upset that you decided
when
to
you
fight.
will focus on that side of the map, and is that what you're saying?
You know what, you could say that is what I'm saying.
That's good. Yeah, like what Pone was saying for bot lane, that almost the exact same thing happens to me in the top lane, right? Where I always feel like I need to be harassing my opponent. Because most of the time, for whatever matchup it is, I am in a position to harass. And if for whatever, God knows what reason, I'm playing someone like Nasus, and I feel like I need to harass against a very unfavorable matchup, it goes poorly.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often. The more frequent scenario is when I die early, and I feel like I'm not that far behind. I can still attack. I can still harass this guy. I can still fight this guy.
Far from
Come
the
on,
only-
he's got a long sword up on me. Psh, that's nothing. Just a long sword. Come on, and then you die again, and you die again. It's. I feel like that's the most common way to reverse snowball.
That happens.
I don't know what you're talking about,
with
Dom.
me.
Riven's a very easy matchup. I have no problems with Riven. None whatsoever.
Punch.
Okay, wait, honest question, like sidebar, honest question, Punch. Given that now we all get a ban, how many times have you just banned Riven? Like, even though there was a better champ on the board.
Wait,
you're just like, nope, fuck it, taking that bitch out of here.
Does Punch do that too? Because I almost always do that, and I noticed that if I don't ban her, I usually have to play against her. I don't know what the fuck it is. It's really annoying.
I don't do that, but that's because I haven't been seeing her very often as of late. That's the only reason. Actually, I banned Nasus a lot. Here's my go-to ban until I discovered Xled shits on him, and then everything was good.
Really? Yeah, mine's still been Warwick because fuck that champion. Every time I leave that champion up,
I know a lot of people that are super anti-Warwick right now, or they just don't want to play against him. Is what it is.
Yeah, it requires a lot of patience to play against Warwick.
Tristana, Janna, Warwick in that order, but I usually don't get so far down as to ban Warwick. Cause
I would love to ban Janna every single fucking game. That champion is too good.
Yeah, she is.
She's so good.
Well, patience is another thing that you have to learn when like stealing a Baron, for example. You have to be patient when you need to be able to jump in to be able to try to steal that Baron. I know it's 50-50 shot, but that happens a lot where where your team has to stand back and defend the base. And this is where the kind of conversation came up, is where you basically have no towers left in your base at all, so you have to be patient in that point in time, because someone has to always be standing there defending the base, meaning that every team fight from there on forward is going to be a 4v5 more than likely. It could be 4v4 if somebody's trying to backdoor, and somebody has to be standing there, and you have to just be patiently clearing waves until your inhibitor comes back up. Same thing with Baron buff. You have to patiently wait out Baron buff, and too many times people just try to force things out of the jungle or force objectives on the map, when in reality, if you just kind of look at what's going on and you have to take a step back and look at the game, press tab and look at the game. Where are we at? We're only 13 minutes in. I don't need to be forcing anything. It's okay for me to go be a jungler and take 2 or 3 camps and then show up somewhere that I think the enemy jungler is going to come up. It's okay for me to just stand in lane and just farm this out and not have to trade. You don't have to always be forcing your will onto the game.
You can't force your will on much of the game.
No, but too many players try to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that's better at jungling is going to have to answer this question, but how patient are you when you're looking for a gank? Because
depends.
We all know that there is a point in time where you're waiting too long and wasting time if you just sit in the bush.
It depends. If I have to sit in a bush for more than 20 seconds, I usually just leave.
Shouldn't you be able to read a lot of that based on just what the minions are doing?
You should be able to read what the minions are doing. You should be able to read it based on, hopefully, like, it's way easier to do if you're in comms with somebody that you're going to gank for, of course. But depending on what the minions are doing, depending on if you've noticed the enemy laner playing up or playing back, or if they're, it's one of those. If you go to gank something and you don't know if it's warded and somebody's like still playing up, but they're playing someone slightly mobile and they just position instead of being like, you're standing in lane, both people are standing in the middle of the lane, but you notice they're starting to stand slightly off from the side that you're at, they know you're fucking there. Like it's not hard once you've ganked a ton of lanes and had them not work a bunch of times. That like there are certain tells that a lot of people have when it comes to trying to gank them. That being said, there's some situations where it's like, okay, you know, bottom lane's backing, you're coming down, the wave's going to be pushing into you in like 20, 30 seconds, and you know, like you have flash up, there's two people in bottom lane that have flash up, the enemy team has no reason to think that you're in the bottom bush because you've cleared it or something like that. Yeah, it's cool to wait that out until they push by you and to fuck somebody for it, because like I mean, there's a high chance of that working because you know all the variables are in your favor as long as they push up towards you. You know what I'm saying? Like go for it.
I do think there's value in understanding how to like sort of make a gank happen even if like the circumstances aren't ideal. Like, I mean, it's something you ultimately have to try. Like, you have to go down to a lane and say, okay, look, they're not in the perfect position, but I've got a finite amount of time to make something happen here. Let's just try it and see what happens. Everything. Like, don't overcommit. Don't try to like go from fucking middle of the lane and dive them, you know, a turret deep or something. But, you know, like poke your head out and run at them and see what happens. You might be able to, like, maybe your support lands a snare or something like that and it turns it into something, but they were waiting for you to make the first move. Like, at a certain point, like sometimes just being willing to be proactive like will get you something, and you can start learning a lot about, you know, both ganking as an art and, you know, like different player habits and that type of thing. You learn a lot about your team by you know, trying to make one gank in a lane. Like, you don't have to wait for just the perfect moment.
And I mean, as you get more comfortable playing as well, you can make more moments happen, if that makes any sense. Like you'll get way better at recognizing like the right time to strike. But that comes with experience of playing, and that's not something that's super tangible otherwise. Do you guys notice? This is just a question for me. Do you notice that it's way easier to be patient when you're playing with other people, especially in comms?
Oh, I think that's a given. You're allowed to talk to other people and try to get an idea what the other people want to do at any point in time. Like, you can follow the jungler's train of thought by just asking them what their plan is, allowing you to be more patient.
Assuming you're playing with the right people and not somebody that will that frequently freaks out and then puts pressure on you because they just can't deal with the stress. Like, oh, we're losing every lane. Oh, those games over at 20. You know those people.
Yeah.
Those people could actually.
I mean, that
have a
goes
negative
back to
effect.
the whole tilting talk, which just really ends up coming down to, does reality match your expectations? And when your expectations are shattered because you fuck up, like, how upset do you get about it? I found just recently, like, even not even playing with 5 people in comps or something like that, but just having somebody else to like bounce ideas off of, even like moving to and from lanes or whatever, makes life so much easier when it comes to planning out not like jungle routes or anything like that, but like routes on when you actually think that you'll be able to kill somebody. Like, if you're talking with somebody who knows what they're really doing on a champion and they know that they don't have any kill pressure on something until level 5 or 6, and you're on your way up to them around level 3, and they, you know, they can be like, hey, like, I don't really think anything can come of this, like, you're better off doing something else. Like, it's way easier to kill the amount of time that you have to wait moving around the map to try and force things to happen, rather than just kind of like keeping the game going and keeping yourself in the game and getting things to make yourself stronger while you're still moving around and doing stuff.
Well, the game plays differently, even with 2 people in the game or 3 people in the game, than it does if you're solo queue. Like as you said, it's, you know, you're able to communicate ganks, you're able to communicate objectives, whatever it may be. I can work with Dom if I'm playing in the bot lane, as we want to do this as a duo, or, you know, I'm going to go and roam and you can stand down here and take care of it yourself, and you don't have to assume that any carry knows anything or whatever, you know, whatever it may be in the game. But it's I think there's over the time, the advice that everybody has been giving, including us, to players playing solo queue, is that the game is all in your control, and I think that puts a lot of pressure on people without them realizing it, that they have to make the best that they can. They have to do the best.
Of course,
they
I
can
mean,
all the
everybody's
time.
convinced that they have to carry.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was pointing into. They have to do the best they can because they have to carry the game regardless of the role they're playing, and that has led to a toxic environment. And it's natural. It's humans, right? Like, because you want to be the star of the show all the time, and that was always inevitable. If that makes sense.
You could kind of tie this conversation to people that are averse to playing support or people that do like to play support. If you feel like you need to carry every game, then those people are generally not going to play the support role. But I mean, I think we all agree that you can make huge gains climbing the ladder playing support. And just tying this back to patience, I wonder if this is kind of just dawning me as I talk about it. Support players are just kind of more patient in general because they themselves they know they're not going to carry the late game. They're setting their team up to do that. They're carrying the bot lane so that he can get farmed and do that. I feel like that's kind of where patience comes in for those players. Where, hey, I know, I know we're not going to win this game from purely my skill. Like I'm not going to. And you know what? Never mind. I take that back. You can purely win from a support player's skill. I don't know where I'm going with this, but Dom felt like he had something to say. So,
well,
I'm gonna let Dom speak.
It's hard to climb as a support. Like yes, it does help that you have this attitude going into a game. It's like we're gonna hit a point where my responsibility changes, and I am not going to carry in the conventional usage of the term. Yeah, I'm going to carry by doing a lot of very, very different things that ultimately put my team in position to win. But it is hard to do that because you ultimately have to trust, like more than anybody else, you have to trust that your teammates are going to be able to and going to do the things that like your team needs to win. And there's a lot more agency, I think, in the other 4 roles than there is in the support role in that regard. Like even AD carry, who is a lot more reliant on a battery mate during the early stages of the game, ultimately gets to the point where like you need your team to peel for you. But even if your team doesn't peel for you, you can kind of outplay your opponent. Like if you're that much better than them. And certainly mid, top, and jungle have enough solo and just individuality going on and everything there where we don't really have to draw a distinction at that point and everything. But on support, like even, whether you're on a sort of backline shield and peeler like Janna and Nami, or you're like on an engaged type champion like Alistar or Leona or something, no matter what you do, like your actions are wholly dependent on your team having taking the proper actions afterward. And that's why, in some respects, you end up feeling really, really helpless with the support role because you can do everything right and still lose.
Thank you, Dom. You said everything that I wish I could have said.
I personally find it really rewarding to know that like we won a game and I made like a lot of really meaningful contributions, and a lot of the things that I did were what led to us winning, even if the rest of the team doesn't actually appreciate that, doesn't know it. More often than not, it's the enemy team that acknowledges my performance than it is like my own team.
I would say it is way easier to notice how annoying, and like I say this because like support, like a really good support player, Janna stands out in particular as just someone who can make life miserable for a bunch of people on the enemy team. That shit is so noticeable when you, for whatever reason, you can't kill her and you can't kill whoever she decides to protect. And like when she protects somebody 5 or 6 times, it's just like, well, fuck that champion. Like I'm and fuck the person playing that champion. I don't want to deal with this again. I will ban Janna next game. And I guess as a support player, you don't necessarily ever get to come around and notice that. But like, it's one of those like really hard swings where it's really easy to tell. It's really easy to tell when somebody who's a carry actually carries, but when a support like hard carries and the rest of their team notices they hard carry, I've never seen more honors go out to anybody other than supports when everyone knows that they've achieved a certain level of success for that team in that match.
And it's not just in gameplay either. Like you mentioned Janna, right? If I'm playing a diver, yeah, she's the biggest pain in the ass.
Devil.
Because I know I can't get to the AD carry. It's just, okay, well, screw this. I might as well not even try to get back there. Or, if you got someone like a really good Thresh player, right? They can make bot lane hell, or they can get their allies out of sticky situations if they get picked off in the jungle just by throwing a lance through them. And then you just raise your fist in the air and cry, God damn you, Thresh! It's not only those. It's also like just the vision game, right? I know vision is a team-wide objective now, but most support players feel like they're just better at it than other players, probably because they've been doing it for so long. They know where to ward, and they know where to find wards to kill them. They know where to deny vision, and it's the most annoying thing to play against when you're playing against an enemy support that just kills all of your wards, and they've got wards everywhere. Like, God damn it. We can't do shit because we can't see anything, and they can see everything we're doing.
Punch, you said vision's a team objective, and immediately in my head I was screaming out, "Not for me!" And then I was thinking,
well, we love you
enough
anyway.
for the both of us, so we'll be perfectly fine.
Oh God, he's self-aware.
It's it's also one of the situations, like if your team is in a position where you have to take out the support before anybody else, you're in a really, really bad position. Like, I'm not talking like you get a pick or you catch the support while they're warding and everything. Like, that's just a hazard of the job. That's exactly what you want to do, and that gives your team, kind of like a hockey-style power play for a little bit. But if you're in a 5v5 team fight and you have to blow really big or important cooldowns to take the support out of the fight, you are in a lot of goddamn trouble. Because that means all of the damage dealers or all of the burly fucking diving tanks are just going to run through you because they have nothing to be afraid of anymore.
I've lost team fights because I have focused the support too hard and because I have not focused the support enough. It's a very fine line for when to target the support, because if you get to the back line and the support is closest to you, but maybe the AD carry is a little farther away and you go for the AD carry, the support can keep that AD carry alive, through shields or kiting or whatnot, right? But if you spend too many resources to kill the support, that means the rest of that support's team is just going to murder you because you've got no cooldowns left. So it can be quite frustrating to play against a good Karma, right? If I let that Karma live, she will make me pay.
It's generally speaking, the rule of thumb is just attack the damage target and everything. There is certainly a point in the game where it's like, nope, we got to kill the Soraka, we got to kill the Janna or something like that. But that's really going to depend on each individual game, and I can't say nope, 35 minutes. That's just when you always need to focus, the support. But during laning. I mean, Adam, how many laning phases, like just laning skirmishes, have we won because for some reason the opponents decided to focus all of their effort on me, instead of attacking you, the damage dealer,
and attacking the person that has higher base stats than I do.
Yeah,
as well.
You and I are pumping all of our damage into the AD carry like we're supposed to, but for some reason they are all focusing their efforts on me, and it's just okay. I mean, it's your guys' funeral.
And don't get me wrong, I'll pump a lot of my damage into a support as well. Like if it's Soraka lane, I have to pump all my damage in that trade into the Soraka because I can't burst down the Lucian fast enough to kill him. And that sucks. But you have to hope that you have higher burst than the enemy has damage output. So yeah, a lot of times you have to hunker down, drop all the damage you can into the AD carry, and run the enemy either out of mana and hope your cooldowns come back up in time, or hope that you've burst somebody out through all those shields, heals, and whatever. And that's where you have to look at your team comp and figure out what it needs to do, because can your team comp actually full out a whole team fight, or are you a better pick comp where you guys have a lot of burst potential and then you can team fight after the priority targets are dead? So there's a lot of communication that needs to happen, but it's really more the sense of game knowledge that the entirety of your team needs to have to understand how to play this game to come together as a unit to destroy the Nexus. You should have seen me working around the end of that sentence in my head, trying to figure out how the hell I was going to say that.
How are you going to finish your thought? Yeah, I just bailed out earlier. I'm like, fuck this. I don't know where I'm going. Dom, save me.
I got you. My support instincts. It just kicked right in.
That's what I love about you.
Well, what about knowledge is power? Does this come from the conversation earlier that we had about the guy who built Thornmail on every single champion that I've?
No, you had it in the document as something that you wanted to talk about, so I just turned it into I just turned it into a bigger paragraph.
I think that's more or
Yeah,
less
that's my
what
way.
it is we talk a lot about game knowledge, and I don't think we ever really defined what game knowledge is, and I don't think I can really totally. I mean, there's just so much to learn about the game and so many different moving parts that's what game knowledge is understanding how all these parts move and how they connect together to make a machine that runs. And part of that is build pass and understanding why you're building certain items. If you are rushing Thornmail as a third item on every single champion, regardless of what the enemy team comp is playing, you are hampering yourself. You're hamstringing yourself because there could be other items that you could build to help push.
I like
team.
hampering better because I have this vision of somebody placing themselves in their own laundry basket. And
You know what? You might as well because you need to wash away
That's
the
still
bad.
funny.
Oh, that was a good one.
Thank you. Go throw yourself in the wash cycle, yo. So, yeah, I'm sick of going in our summoner school, looking at people's OPGGs that say that they're having issues, and then finding that pattern of they're always building the same item. And to me, that screams they're always building it at the same exact time, and they're always building those items at the same exact time, regardless of the matchup. Punch, your Kled build pass. Let's go there because it's one of your more played champions. Do those change depending on the champion you're playing into? Even if it's
Yes,
maybe not necessarily.
But the example I have for this, the example I have for this actually wasn't Kled. It was a Vantage game we were playing, where I was playing Trundle against a Darius, and I built armor early, but I built a Frozen Heart, and the coach afterwards said, "Yeah, Frozen Heart's a good item, and it's good on Trundle. It's not great against Darius. If you want to build an early armor item, you should have been building Sunfire Cape, which was a good item at the time, maybe not so much now."
anything with health on it's good against Darius.
Right. I mean, so yeah. I mean, these people that if you're one of these people that are building what is in your mind a good item build every game, and those items are good in the meta, that everyone agrees that those are items worth having, it doesn't mean that you don't have that you shouldn't be looking at what you're playing against, what the circumstances are, and taking liberties to change that if need be. Kled, so if I'm going back to Kled, and it's actually been a while since I've played him, so I'm kind of sad that you brought him up. But what I want to build first, ideally, is a Tiamat into Black Cleaver, and then finish my Hydra.
Yep.
But if I'm going against a high damage target or a high damage opponent, like let's say I'm going against Darius again, right? I might build the Tiamat, but I'm not going straight into Black Cleaver after that. I'm definitely going to build some armor.
Well, and it also is like
going full offensive against a hero like that, you're going to get fucked.
Well, if you go full offensive and you've died, you have fucking no business building that second damage item right off. Like if you, especially on somebody like Kled, where you're building 2 offensive items early, if you fucking die before you finish Tiamat or something else, like you're gonna have to rethink the order in which you're buying things, because if you get slightly behind, the whole point of buying those 2 items in a row is, all right, I'm even or better than them right now, and I want to get way more damage in and kill them before they can do anything about it. If they can already kill you, that defeats the whole purpose of what you're trying to achieve by getting those 2 offensive items. It's with Swain, I mean, it's one of those things where you start the typical Roa build, but like depending on whether or not the enemy team has like 2 tanks on it or something else like that, you may have to invest in getting another item with mana on it, so you can just sit in bird form longer and potentially shred them later with something like Leandri's. If you're playing Nasus, it's not always best to just fucking go T-Force every opportunity that you get.
I'm glad you brought up Swain, because a lot of AD carry players tend to think that they have to go in a very, very specific item build order, and like that's the only route that they can take every single game. But there are plenty of champions who a lot of what they do is just about sort of like draining.
What do they do differently?
And everything, Swain, Warwick, Darius to some extent, Vlad certainly, Mundo. A lot of these champions, the idea is like they're supposed to just go in and absorb all the hits. They don't care about how low their health bar gets because they're going to get all this health back. And buying that early shit, the Grievous Wounds item, not like the component of Mortal Reminder. Why can't I?
Executioner's Calling.
Thank you. Buying that early Executioner's Calling can have such a huge impact on your team's ability to succeed in these fights just because you got Grievous Wounds on a priority target.
I was
back in the day, my brother used to pick like Misfortune or Tristana into a lot of these matchups because they had Grievous Wounds built into their kit. They don't anymore. Yeah. And that's a good thing. Grievous Wounds really doesn't need to be in champions kits and that type of thing. But like, I mean, Grievous Wounds is such an important counter to these types of things, and so many people overlook it because it's not like the second stop on their build order.
I was in a match on Saturday that I was playing with Whale, and Whale took the second blue buff. Our mid laner was taking it. Our mid laner was Zed, and Zed has it down to probably like a quarter health, and Whale walks by and smites it, and the mid laner gets so pissed that he just decides to AFK. And not only does he AFK, but he's sitting in the base talking shit to us the entire time.
Of course.
We end up winning the 4v5, and I go 17-5 for the game. But at like the 9th kill, the Zed on our team is typing in all chat. He's like, "You fucking idiots! Why aren't you buying Grievous Wounds? Just fucking kill that guy!" It seems like something that like would be a really easy solution to being able to do that when like the only reason I was able to do the things I was doing that game was because I was ahead and I would walk forward into a team and they couldn't kill me.
Press R and run at them.
Yeah, that's exactly. You press R and walk right at them. You don't even run at them. You just walk slowly at them, and eventually, like you hope that they're all dead, or you run out of mana and you die. Like that's all there is to it. But there's things in the game, like if you just follow standardized build paths, like you're not going to be able to deal with certain specialized things that champions can do.
I was playing Mundo against a Trundle, this Trundle rushed Executioner's Calling first item, and I thought this guy was crazy. I'm like, who the fuck plays Trundle and buys Executioner's Calling if I can say the goddamn item's name?
Did he shit
Who
on
buys
you
that
as
item
soon
first?
as,
This guy's nuts. This guy doesn't know what he's doing, and of course he wrecked my face.
I feel
Totally
like
demolished
after
me.
6, if you committed to a fight and you couldn't get away from him, he just wins.
No, yeah, Trundle does 1 every time.
Yeah.
Whereas Mundo usually has a power spike at 6, but this Trundle is like, nah, bro, I get it.
I feel like
I'm gonna take you out.
Trundle wins that matchup no matter what, though, because Trundle just waits till you press R. And then
Probably.
Then he presses R.
But it was a very unorthodox first buy, something I've never seen before, and it was very effective. So don't shit on my example, Pone.
Punch, that comes exactly down to the reality didn't match your expectations for the game, and you tilted.
That's right, it didn't. I was blown away. Like, who does that? This is crazy.
Oh, bless
And
that.
Punch came back to lane with higher expectations, believing that he was going to win the trades because there's no extra damage coming out of this Trundle.
Well, what would you?
Yeah, I
have to
probably
get,
died 2 or 3 more
Bramble
times,
Vest?
or 7.
That's what you would have to get in order to deal with his regen.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a while ago though.
You probably didn't.
Like another good.
You could buy
I'm hesitant
Varela.
to use. I'm hesitant to use the word flex item because Gargoyle Stoneplate is kind of meta, and it's a very good item. But if you're playing somebody, let's just use the top laner Bruiser example, where you can build offensive or defensive. So you're playing Kled or you're playing Aurelia. You're playing somebody that can dive the back line, right? Gargoyle Stoneplate's a very good option to consider if you are kind of the only front line on your team, right? So if I'm playing Kled and my jungler's Elise, I know I'm going to be taking the brunt force of the damage. I want to build a lot of damage and jump on the AD carry and kill them, but I'm probably not going to have a lot of success. I'm going to do a lot more good for my team if I can just soak up a lot of damage and buy a lot of time. And that's what Gargoyle Stoneplate is very good at. Mm-hmm. If you're the only one in there and you're taking all of that assault, then definitely want to pick that one up.
I like buying, just a humble cloth armor early in the game. If it feels like laning is going to go long, or there's just been a lot of trading going on, it's like, you know what? This 300 gold on cloth armor is going to be way more valuable than 300 gold on my boots. So let's get that 15 armor, and like, you know what? Sure shit, it's the type of thing that swings fights ultimately, because I can just take a little bit more damage, and it builds into a bunch of items I'm going to want at some point or another. Aegis, Raptor Cloak, Glacial.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Glacial
it's
Shroud.
not like that item is useless.
Yeah, I mean, it turns into something I'm going to buy at some point of the game. I might not buy that until like 4 items deep, but like it's still going to turn into something useful for me.
What about buying an early Ninja Tabby? I know those are really powerful early in the season, but I still think they're an item that are overlooked by a lot of top laners as a rush item, because the amount of damage you're mitigating can allow you to do plenty of damage in return.
Very good item to buy against a Gnar or an AD Kennen, or just any ranged AD that you're going up against, or somebody does auto attacks a lot.
Punch
if you're
like
melee
Elo.
and they're melee and they're auto attacking all the time, just buy Ninja Tabby.
Nasus?
Not Nasus.
Don't buy it against Nasus.
I mean, if you're playing as Nasus, okay.
Nah, Mercury Treads.
But if you're playing against Nasus, kill that fucker.
But Nasus, but he auto attacks a lot. Punch.
Yeah,
Like you're defying your own logic here.
but I can kill it. Nasus isn't going to sit there and auto attack you in a trade.
He's gonna kill
He's
you.
going to Q you once, wither you, and then maybe run away if he's smart.
Hell no! I wait for my Q to come back off cooldown. That entire 6 seconds, the longest 6 seconds of my life.
What? But
Not
6
if you're in
seconds-
your ult. Not if you're in your ult.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fine,
right.
But 6 seconds, my ass. By fucking level 7, it's and you have like a little bit of CDR. It's a 3-second cooldown at max.
So Nasus is so terrifying that you're banning him every game.
Nasus is pretty fucking good right now.
Not anymore. I was.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd ban him every game. Before I found a counter to that guy, if you don't have a counter for Nasus in the laning phase and he just farms, what do you do?
We talked about that.
If
a
you
while
don't have
ago.
anybody to harass him out of lane, you're just kind of fucked.
Well, Punch,
Yeah.
we talked about that a while ago. Should I point you back to episode 456 of the Trinity Force podcast?
Was I on that episode?
Probably yes.
Then no.
We literally
He
had
remembers
this
all of it.
discussion.
I remember every word,
God.
but we only have 5 minutes left, so I can't repeat it here. Sorry, guys. I'd love to rehatch it, but
what
I
a
can't
shame.
do it. Can't do it.
Yeah, just go.
Did you actually know it was that episode?
No, was it that episode? Did you?
God,
go
I was about to say I was like, holy fuck, Adam's stepping his game up with knowing exactly what he's been talking about recently.
Well, the new website helps in that because it has tags now, and I can tag it with what champions we discussed.
Woo!
I don't.
Eggs.
I don't even remember what episode we talked about that on. 456.
I know we've
is
talked
called
about it.
This
Probably
Is
more
An
than once.
Episode. Nope, it wasn't 456. Sorry, guys. Maybe it was. Wait, what patch did he get changed on? Does anyone remember?
No.
Motherfucker.
7 something.
Hell, it was a lot further back than that.
This is great podcast audio. I was gonna say podio.
You're right. It is Podio.
It-
Shit. It's all shit. It's
7.15.
Wow.
7.15 is when the Fury of the Sands effect got added.
Really?
Yeah, it's not that long ago.
Did we talk
And the
about
armor, the armor
462?
reduction changed from flat to percentage.
Well, shit, maybe 465. Fuck if I know what goddamn podcast you talked about. And you know what? I'll figure it out later. It's not that big a deal. And this is where the podcast has just gone off the rails, and I'm just gonna call it there. We had
What are we talking about?
who knows.
Buddha Boxers, BUDDHA boxers.com
underwear.
/ Trinity Force. Use code or / T Force. Use code Trinity Force for 20% off your order.
Not to be confused with 15.
T
I
Force.
don't remember.
15 T
15 T-Force
for the Skylab
or
performance.
Skylab
Series.
Performance Seating. That's right.
Guys, this is
We got-
why
we got
you
two
support
promos
us.
going on.
If you didn't,
We have so many promo codes.
listen, the shit show of an episode that was a lot of great knowledge smacking you in your face. This is why you support us, because we bring you laughs, we bring you tears, and we bring you an hour of enjoyment on your way into work. every
High
morning.
quality content.
Plus, I bring Tira Jaden back every once in a while. Well, actually, Dom does, because Dom texts.
Yeah,
him. I text
show-
Tira on Monday, and I didn't know he had his internet out, but he did not even take the time to reply to me the next day and say, "Man, my internet was out." He never replied to my text message. Just
I
still
didn't. I
sitting
didn't
there.
reply. In fact, I thought about that all day yesterday. I was like, "Oh man, but it's too late now. I just can't say anything.
Just like
We've
play
gone too far."
He just left me undelivered. I'm still undelivered.
You know, I saw it because, like, I mean, I'm the worst. I'm just terrible. I'll pay attention to something for half a second and then it'll slip my mind. It's like, well, that may as well never have existed ever. I'm going to go about doing what I was doing.
Shit.
And it's just depressing.
Well, what else is depressing? We have to end the show. I'm sorry, guys.
Aww.
We'll be back on Monday. I think next week. I said this week is patch episode, but I guess it's 3 weeks in between for the next couple patches. So next week should be a patch episode, right? Next Wednesday.
Maybe.
Yeah. So that's episode 471 of the Trinity Force podcast. Guys, enjoy your weekend. Yeah, it's Wednesday. I'm all fucking thrown off by Labor Day. So enjoy your weekend. You listen to us on a Friday. We'll see you all.
If you're near Florida, try and escape the hurricane.
Get the fuck out. Why are you listening to this show?
Please be safe.
If you are listening to this show while you are driving away from the hurricane, I want photos.
I don't think they should be taking photos while driving. That's terrible.
They're driving away from a hurricane, and we want you to take photos. Don't worry about your life. No, fuck that.
I want a photo of you holding your
ass out of there.
iPhone with our logo on it while the hurricane is bearing down on you.
The host is an asshole.
But only if you're an idiot and you're there listening to the podcast while the hurricane is bearing down.
The host is an asshole, not an idiot. And he's an asshole.
People love me.
Do they?
Yes, that's why they're going to come back and listen on Monday.
Whatever you say to get yourself asleep at night.
I usually say nothing. Actually, I say a lot of, shh, baby, be quiet. Oh, come on. You can go to sleep. It's okay.
It looks like he's talking to his penis.
No, I'm talking to Charlotte, which is my baby.
I know. But it looked.
All right, this show is off the fucking rails. Guys, we'll see you on Monday. Peace.
See ya.
See you guys.